Hello, this is Kittens cycling in España. Today's cycle is in Tenerife, Canary Isle. In February, I visited Lanzarote, and now I'm visiting Canaries again. The reason why I visited Tenerife is I wanted to climb El Teide, the longest climb in Europe, as well as the highest peak in Spain. El Teide climb itself is around 38 km long with the average grade of 5 to 6%. The length of the climb can vary depending on which route you access the mountain. As always, I'm starting my cycling early in the morning in a small town called Chiho. It's a total distance of 130 kilometers, but it was one of the hardest cycles I've ever done in my life because it has a 3,500 meter climb. Here I'm passing through the town called Santiago del Teide. It's a kind of a center town for the northwest Tenerife. Instead of heading directly to El Teide, I'm taking a big northwest detour to lengthen today's journey. If you go farther northwest from here, there is an amazing town called Mascar, which looks a bit like mini Machu Picchu. But that trip is for another day. Overall, the view is fantastic, but the road is quite narrow here, and there were so many cars later in the afternoon. So you might want to avoid here on busy weekends. Now this is the place that I'm taking northern detour, a small town called La Vegas, and then after that Santa Cruz de Tenerife. But I regretted this after immediately I entered the town because the roads were too narrow and steep. And eventually my disc brakes started to heat up too much and began to make a very unpleasant that squeaky noise. And I know this from my experience in Beara Peninsula in Ireland, that if this symptom kind of continues, then my brake rotor will be damaged, which will cost me a lot of extra money. So eventually at some point I got off my saddle and walked down the hill. After La Vegas, down to Santa Cruz de Tenerife, the road is very nice and it's calm and relaxing, and I got the feeling that this Santa Cruz is kind of a largest town in the northern part of Tenerife. It was quite big, and I passed down the town center, and on the way before continuing I did a quick stop at the supermarket, bought me some food and Coke to fill me up again. And then now I'm coming up to a town called La Orotava, and this is a town where actually the El Teide climb starts. And again, the coastal road is really nice, and you can get a majestic view of the coasts and as well as the town Orotava. And I think depending on the website, they climb the LT they climb from north. The length varies from 20 kilometers to 60 kilometers, but I think it's about, and according to what my Garmin says, it was about 38 kilometers roughly, 40. And like I said, it's the Europe's longest climb as well as Spain's highest peak. And in fact, it's really a nice climb because it's quite high. The altitude goes up to 2,350-ish meters. And actually, the peak is much higher than that. And when you ride a cable car, you can go up to 3,500 meters. But the point where you can access by your bike, the highest is about 2,300 meters. But on the way, the scenery changes dramatically as well as the temperature. And sometimes you'll be cruising in and out of the passing clouds, which is quite mystical sometimes and not good. And again, this climb isn't that hard because the slope is very gentle and the road surface is very well paved. It's just the sheer length of the climb that kind of scares you, but there's nothing to be scared really. And I didn't expected this, but near the top I had a serious problem of refueling the food and water, because I read in the quite few websites that you can see here there's a visitor center and there's a restaurant and there's cafes, but I don't know because it was on a weekday or no, it was quite late. I think it was around 4 or 5 p.m. So all the places closed early, but there was almost zero place that I can go into and take rest and refuel my energy. So at some point I was getting really frustrated and yeah, quite dangerous too. But fortunately, near the top, I found this restaurant called Babylon, and I could go in and have some food and refuel some energy. And in the restaurant, I came across these two lovely gentlemen from Switzerland, and with talking with them, I made up my mind to go to Switzerland for my next cycling trip, which I've already uploaded on my YouTube. And after the restaurant, it was pretty much flat. I think the altitude here is about 2,200, and the highest point will be 2,300, so only about 100-meter more climb. And the length up to the top would be about, I think it was 8 to 9 kilometers left, so the surface is quite flat. But you can see the landscape here is truly breathtaking, and the whole place looks like a huge crater, like as if the ones you can see on moons on Mars. It's really huge and it's also very unique, and I don't think you can easily see this kind of landscape in anywhere in Europe. And later I heard this explanation from the tour guide that this crater would be too big for the whole to be created by volcanic eruption. So originally the crater was much smaller, but eventually after the long time, the erosion and collapse of the mountains, the whole place became like this. And like I said, the highest points that you can go up be by the cable car, which the upper station is situated at around 3,500 meters. But with the bike, the highest you can go is 2,300 meters, and I've passed that point. And now I'm cycling down to Chiho, where I've started today's cycling. You can see that the sun is already going down, and at the left there is a famous hotel. I think many of like a Tour de France and these elite cyclist teams, they come here to train for the high altitude cycling. Because I didn't quite feel that much, but maybe I was already tired and I was going slow, but I didn't feel that less of oxygen at this level, like 2200-ish. But I definitely felt it when I was over 3,500 meters, and in Switzerland when I was at 3,900 meters, Europe's highest cable car station in Matterhorn. I definitely felt the less oxygen when I ran there. So anyways, the sun is already going down and I still have about 40 kilometers left, so I really hurried, and it was the fastest 40k that I've done in my life, which was about a little bit less than an hour. And I've came back to my accommodation almost right after the sun has set completely, and still I'd made it. The highest peak in Spain and the longest climb in Europe. And that's it for today's cycling, and tomorrow I'm thinking of going up the Teide cable car that I've mentioned, and maybe do some additional tours on my bike the day after. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.